I rolled up to Prestige Motors, the big-name dealership I had just bought out in Miami, Florida. The late afternoon sun bounced off the polished luxury rides parked out front, each one practically glowing in the heat. I pulled my beat-up SUV into a spot way in the back, nothing marked, nothing fancy. Climbing out, I took a second to check out the building. I wasn't dressed to draw attention, far from it. Just a gray hoodie, some worn jeans, and old sneakers. That was the look I was going for. I wanted to see how this place really ran, what kind of treatment a guy like me would get when nobody knew the new owner was in the room. As I walked up to the doors, I spotted a few employees by the front desk, joking around and laughing. The sound carried through the glass as I stepped inside. The blast of AC hit me right away, a sharp contrast to the sticky heat outside. The air smelled like leather seats and fresh wax. Bright lights shined down on rows of spotless cars, each one polished to perfection. The chatter quieted when I walked in. I caught the way their eyes flicked toward me, hoodie, sneakers, casual look. You could feel the shift without a single word being said. I kept my cool. I wasn't here to jump to conclusions, I just wanted to watch and listen. Then she appeared. Karen. Middle-aged, sharp cheekbones, sharper eyes. Her fitted blazer and clicking heels screamed authority, and the clipboard tucked under her arm sealed the deal. She came right at me, smile polite but a little too tight. "Excuse me," she said, voice clipped. "Can I help you with something?" I smiled back, keeping it easy. "Just looking around," I said, gesturing at the cars. Her eyes scanned me head to toe, and that friendly mask slipped a bit. "Are you shopping for a car?" she asked, doubt hanging in her tone. "Something like that," I replied, still grinning. Her lips pressed together. "Well, we serve a very particular clientele here. Most of our cars require pre-qualification. Maybe I could recommend." "Hey, Karen. Delivery guys here," another employee called out across the showroom. She glanced that way, then quickly refocused on me, like she was worried I'd wander where I didn't belong. I raised an eyebrow. "You're assuming I'm not qualified?" That caught her off guard, but only for a second. She straightened up, forced another smile. "I'm just trying to save you some time. These vehicles start at 6 figures. Perhaps I can direct you elsewhere." Inside, I clocked her words. Outside, I didn't flinch. The tension hung thick between us. I strolled over to a sleek silver coupe, let my hand brush the handle. "Nice car," I said casually. Her brows tightened, though she kept smiling. "It is. When you're ready for a serious inquiry, we can set an appointment. In the meantime, I'll need you not to touch the vehicles." I leaned back, hands in my pockets. "All right," I said, nodding. "Then tell me, what would you recommend for someone like me?" That question made her blink. Before she could answer, I added, "If you think you've got me figured out, I'm listening." The cracks showed in her polite front, just for a second. "Maybe something more, budget-friendly. I can point you toward a dealership that deals in pre-owned." I gave a faint smile that didn't touch my eyes. "Quite the assumption," I said quietly. That landed. She faltered, just a beat, then pulled herself together. "I'll be back with a list of options," she said, heels clicking as she walked away. I watched her go, my face unreadable. I turned back toward that silver coupe, my own reflection staring back at me from the flawless paint. Yeah, this was going to be an interesting day. I stood there in the middle of the showroom, hands buried in my pockets, my eyes drifting over the lineup of cars. Normally, I don't jump to conclusions about people, but Karen's attitude wasn't exactly subtle. Around me, the staff picked their conversations back up, though every now and then I caught someone sneaking a glance my way. That kind of silent judgment. I'd seen it plenty of times before. The looks. The assumptions. Karen came striding back a minute later, gripping her clipboard like it was a shield. Her walk was brisk, her smile tight. "All right," she said, stopping just short of me. "I've pulled together a few options that might be a little more suitable for your situation." I cocked my head slightly. "My situation?" "Yes," she replied, voice clipped. She handed me a printout filled with pre-owned vehicles, stuff miles away from the premium cars on display. Older sedans, a worn SUV, a hybrid or two. These are more accessible. Reliable. Practical. I scanned the list, lips twitching with amusement before I folded the paper and slid it into my pocket. "Appreciate the effort," I said evenly. That threw her off for half a second, but she recovered fast, planting her hands on her hips. "Listen," she said, lowering her voice like she was sharing a secret, "I'm just being realistic. Prestige Motors isn't for everyone. I don't want to waste your time." I met her gaze, calm and steady. "And what exactly makes you think I'm not your target customer?" Karen hesitated, then said, "I've been doing this a long time. I can tell when someone's out of their depth." "Out of their depth," I repeated softly, almost thoughtful. "Interesting." There was a flicker of doubt in her eyes, but she pushed on. "I'm just being honest. Better to be upfront than let someone walk out disappointed." I let out a quiet chuckle, shaking my head. "Honest, huh? I like honesty. Tell you what, why don't you let me talk to the owner? Think you can make that happen?" Her eyebrows shot up. That one caught her off guard. "The owner?" "That's right," I said casually. "I'd like to have a word with them." She forced a thin smile. "Well, that's not possible. The owner doesn't just swing by. They're a busy person." "I'm sure they are," I said with a nod. "But maybe you could give them a quick call. Let them know I'm here. I think they'd want to meet me." Her smile hardened. She was starting to lose patience, and it showed. "Look, sir, I'm trying to stay polite, but this is getting ridiculous. I have other customers to attend to. If you're serious about buying, we can schedule you with a sales consultant. Otherwise." "Otherwise what?" I asked, still calm, though my voice carried an edge this time. Her eyes narrowed. "Otherwise, I'll have to ask you to leave." The words landed heavy, and for a moment the whole place went quiet. I didn't move. Just stared back at her. Then slowly, I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone. "All right," I said, scrolling through my contacts. "I'll make the call myself." Her brow furrowed. "What are you doing?" "Calling the owner," I replied, lifting the phone to my ear. "Won't take long." Her confidence cracked. Irritation gave way to confusion. She opened her mouth but nothing came out. Around us, employees had stopped pretending not to notice. Eyes were locked on me. I held up a finger, like give me a sec, and turned slightly away. "Yeah, it's me," I said into the phone. "I'm at the dealership. Everything's fine. Just a little misunderstanding. Could you let them know I'm here?" I ended the call, slipped the phone back into my pocket, and turned to Karen. "They'll be here shortly." She stared at me, mouth half open. Who did you just call?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I looked around the showroom, letting my gaze linger on the staff who were watching every move. Then I smiled faintly. "Guess we'll find out." The tension in that room was so thick you could feel it pressing down on everyone. Karen shifted on her feet, struggling to keep her composure. The minutes dragged by, but the place felt frozen in time. Karen pretended to stay busy with her clipboard, but the stiffness in her movements gave her away. I, on the other hand, leaned casually by one of the luxury SUVs, calm as ever, letting the tension build on its own. Across the showroom, employees whispered in low voices, throwing quick glances my way when they thought I wouldn't notice. It was obvious, everyone was waiting for something. Or someone. The sound of the front door opening broke the silence. A man in a navy suit stepped in, polished shoes clicking against the tile. His face was serious, but when his eyes landed on me, he broke into a wide smile. "Mr. Carter," he said warmly, hand extended as he walked over. "Good to see you." I shook his hand firmly, a small grin tugging at my lips. "Thanks for coming, Michael. Appreciate it." The whole room went stiff. Karen's clipboard nearly slipped from her hands as she looked back and forth between us, shock flashing across her face. "Mr. Carter," she muttered, uncertain. Michael's friendly look shifted to something more professional, even sharp. "Karen," he said flatly. "I see you've already met Mr. Carter." Her mouth opened and closed, searching for words. I didn't realize." "You didn't realize he's the new owner of this dealership?" Michael cut in, his tone curt. He shot me an apologetic look. "I trust this wasn't exactly the welcome you had in mind." I raised a hand. "It's fine, Michael. Karen and I just got off on the wrong foot." My words were calm, but they carried weight. The kind of weight that made the entire room lean in. Karen's face drained of color. She hugged her clipboard tight to her chest. "I'm so sorry," she stammered, voice barely a whisper. "I didn't know." "You didn't know what?" I asked gently, but firmly. "That I could own a place like this? That somebody like me might actually belong here?" Her eyes went wide. "I didn't mean." I lifted a hand, cutting her off. "It's fine, Karen. Really." I stepped closer, lowering my voice just enough so everyone had to lean in to catch it. "But tell me something, if I hadn't been the owner, would you have treated me any different? Would I have gotten the same respect as the guy walking in here wearing a suit and tie?" Karen opened her mouth, but nothing came out. The silence that followed was louder than anything she could have said. I nodded, as if her silence was the answer I expected. Turning to Michael, I said, "Let's bring everyone into the conference room. I think it's time we had a little chat about how things are run around here." The staff filed into the sleek conference room, tension hanging thick in the air. The place was all glass walls and modern furniture, clearly designed to impress, but today it felt more like a pressure cooker. Karen sat near the back, her usual confidence gone, replaced by a stiff nervousness. I stood at the head of the table, calm and collected, my presence commanding the room. Michael stayed by the door, arms crossed, watching. Conversations died down as I cleared my throat and let my eyes sweep the room. "Thanks for coming in on short notice," I began, my tone steady but firm. "For those of you who don't know me, my name is John Carter, and as of last month, I'm the new owner of Prestige Motors." A ripple of murmurs ran through the group, some curious, some embarrassed. Karen sank deeper into her chair, refusing to look at me. "I came here today dressed casually for a reason," I continued. "I wanted to see how this place really operates when no one knows who I am. I wanted to feel what a potential customer might feel walking through those doors." I paused, letting the words hang. What I experienced today was disappointing. I wasn't judged on what I could bring to the table, but on how I looked. And I'm not here to call anyone out by name. What I am here to do is talk about what that says about the culture of this dealership. Karen shifted uneasily, her face flushed. I glanced her way briefly before focusing back on the group. "This isn't just about me," I said. "It's about every person who steps through those doors. Every customer who doesn't fit somebody's idea of what a luxury buyer looks like." The room stayed quiet. Finally, one of the younger sales associates hesitantly raised his hand. I nodded toward the young sales associate. "Go ahead." "Mr. Carter," he began nervously, "I think most of us really do try to treat customers fairly. But sometimes it's hard not to make assumptions." I gave a thoughtful nod. "I get that. We all have biases, whether we like admitting it or not. But here's the thing, it's not enough to just try to be fair. We've got to actually push back against those biases. We've got to build an environment where every person who walks through those doors feels respected, no matter what they look like, where they come from, or anything else. I let that sink in before continuing. This dealership has a reputation for excellence. But excellence isn't only about the cars we sell, it's about the experience we provide. From now on, that experience is going to be built on respect, inclusivity, and fairness. Around the room, I saw some heads nodding, though a few faces were still cautious. My eyes eventually found Karen, sitting stiff as a statue, hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Karen," I said gently but firmly, "I want to give you the opportunity to speak. Is there anything you'd like to say?" The room turned toward her. She hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper. I made a mistake," she admitted, her face flushed. "I misjudged you. And for that, I'm truly sorry." I kept my expression steady. "Thank you for saying that. I hope this serves as a reminder for all of us, not just you. Because real change starts with accountability." Turning back to the group, I said, "Moving forward, we'll be rolling out new training programs to make sure this dealership reflects the values I believe in. Every single customer deserves dignity, no exceptions. If anyone's got a problem with that, now's the time to say so." The room stayed quiet. The only sound was the low hum of the air conditioning. I let the silence stretch just long enough to make the point. Then I spoke again, calm but resolute. "Good. Glad to see we're on the same page. Change isn't easy, but it's necessary, and this dealership is going to set the example." I leaned forward slightly, resting my hands on the edge of the table. "Let me make something clear, I didn't come here today to embarrass anyone. I came to understand what kind of culture I've stepped into and figure out how to make it better." My eyes shifted back to Karen. I softened my tone. "You're an experienced manager. I know you've worked hard to get here. But today was a wake-up call, for you and for all of us." She finally looked up at me, her voice shaky but sincere. "I understand. I was wrong. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. I believe in second chances," I said simply. "But accountability comes first. We'll sit down one-on-one soon and talk about next steps. For now, let's focus on moving forward." I straightened and turned back to the rest of the team. "We're not just here to sell cars. We're here to build trust, create relationships, and live up to a higher standard. If you're on board with that, I'll be here to back you up every step of the way." This time, the murmurs of agreement were stronger, more genuine. The tension began to ease. Even Michael, standing quietly by the door, gave a nod of approval. I allowed myself a small smile, one that carried both relief and determination. "All right then. Let's get back to work. And remember, how we treat people matters more than anything we sell." As the team started filing out, I noticed Karen lingering near the door. She walked up, twisting her hands nervously. "Mr. Carter," she said quietly, I want to thank you for giving me the chance to do better. I won't let you down." I studied her for a moment before replying. "I hope you mean that, Karen. Actions speak louder than words. But I believe people can change, if they're willing to try." She nodded, eyes sincere. "I am." I watched her leave before turning to Michael. "Let's set up a staff meeting next week. I want to make sure everyone knows exactly what's expected moving forward." Michael grinned. "You got it, boss." Stepping back out into the showroom, I looked around at the rows of gleaming cars, their polished surfaces reflecting the afternoon light. There was still plenty of work to do, that much was clear. But for the first time all day, I felt a real sense of optimism. This wasn't just about running a dealership anymore. It was about creating something bigger, a place where people would be judged by their character, not their appearance. And I was ready to lead the way.